Is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes.
He's going for it.
Yes! Oh my goal! What a goal!
And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And yeah, waited until the CF Montreal and New York City FC game ended before I recorded this podcast in hopes of us knowing what time the Philadelphia Union would be playing on Sunday. And, well, when did you guys know? We still don't know the time. Obviously, we know the date is October 30th on a Sunday. And we do know that New York City defeated Montreal by a score of 3-1. And everybody gets the game that they wanted. The revenge game, I'm seeing people call it on social media. And yeah, you just hope that everybody stays healthy for the Union, everybody stays healthy for New York City, and you just get both of these teams going at each other at full strength, and hopefully we're in for some entertaining soccer. But we obviously won't talk about that game this episode. I'll surprise you guys if I have a guest on or not during the week to preview that game. But yeah, obviously we're going to talk about that Cincinnati game. A lot to talk about in that game. We'll go over our blunder of the week. We'll go over keys to the game. We'll go over the goal breakdown and really no news. I mean, what's there to discuss this late in the MLS season? We know LAFC defeated LA Galaxy on Thursday night by a score of 3-2. By the time you guys are done listening to this episode, you guys will know before me when the Union will play on Sunday. You guys will also know, will it be Austin or will it be Dallas taking on LAFC? I know we're all hoping that either one of those teams defeats LAFC so the Union could hopefully host MLS Cup at Subaru Park. But look, you can only focus on what's ahead of you, and the Union did just that against FC Cincinnati. Before we get into the Philadelphia Union and FC Cincinnati game, I just want to go ahead and talk about, in my opinion, what was the best moment from that game on the night. And it was listening to the fans singing Dancing on My Own. And if you guys aren't familiar with that song, Kyle Schwarber of the Philadelphia Phillies played this song when he was a member of the Boston Red Sox in 2021. And during the playoff run that the Phillies are on, the Phillies have played this song in the locker room every time that they've won a series. And it has taken off tremendously in the city of Philadelphia. And the Eagles eventually played the song when they were playing the Cowboys. And then the Union play it on Thursday night after they defeat FC Cincinnati. And this song is really started to become an anthem for the city of Philadelphia, I feel like. Something that started with the Phillies has been adopted by the Eagles, the Union, and I'm not sure if the NHL, the Flyers, or the 76ers, I'm not sure if either one of those teams yet have played the song, but I was sitting in the press box and just listening to the crowd sing this song. And while I'm sitting there in the press box, the song was very moving because you could hear it in the voices of the people that were singing this. You could see how excited the fans were when this song came over the loudspeaker. And that just shows me the love that people have for this city of Philadelphia to rally behind a song. And it's so captivating watching how sports can draw people together. And I can't think of a time ever where the Phillies, the Eagles, and the Union have all been good at the same exact time. And I know the MLS PR department put out a stat the other day that said uh, October 31st of 2021 was the last time that the MLS, MLB, NBA, NFL, and the NHL all had games on the same day. And just to see all the sports teams in Philadelphia have success, but to see how excited people were for this song to get played over the loudspeakers and just seeing the pride that people have for their city of Philadelphia. That's extremely moving. And yeah, you read and hear about all the negative things that goes on in the city. You know, that's everyday life. It doesn't matter if it's Philadelphia, it doesn't matter if it's Baltimore, it doesn't matter if it's New York, you know. Each city is going to have its issues. But that's not going to stop the people from having love, having pride in their city, having pride in Philadelphia. And so just listen to that song after the game. It was so moving. And I don't know if you were there in the stadium or not. And maybe you guys had the same reaction too. Maybe you guys have been to Phillies games this season in the playoffs. And so maybe you guys are used to hearing this song, but for myself, hearing this song for the first time ever in person and listening to a whole crowd sing this song, I mean, just thinking about that moment, it's sending chills down my body. And if you guys weren't in the stadium, if people have video of this moment, please send it to me on Twitter so I can repost it, or let me know how I can get other people to hear the excitement in the crowd from the song Dancing on My Own when it was played over the loudspeaker. And yes, a video, if there are videos out there of this moment, yes, it's not going to do any justification for what it felt like to be in that stadium. But man, it makes me proud to cover this team, the Philadelphia Union, to be a fan of the Philadelphia Union, and just to see the joy that this team brings people. What sports does to a city, like I said, it pulls people together. And in my opinion, that was the best moment on the night. Yes, better than the Union beating FC Cincinnati. And yeah, this moment probably wouldn't have happened if the Union had lost to Cincinnati. But, man, I just feel really lucky, really fortunate to be in the stadium. And I guess be in a spot where, yeah, I'm not just hearing the River Ends sing, but I'm hearing the whole stadium sing this song. And yeah, it was extremely moving. So let's just get straight into the FC Cincinnati and Philadelphia Union game. And early on in this game, I thought Cincinnati came out with more intensity. They came out with more fire. They had the first shot in the game with Junior Moreno. And you look, the first 5 minutes of this game, Cincinnati had more of the ball, 58.7 to the Union's 41.3, where they only had one shot on target. And the Union also had one shot within the first 5 minutes of this game. But we saw Cincinnati more in the Union's half. They were going at the Union, and the Union did a good job to, not break. How many times have we said that on this podcast? How many times has Jim Curtin said, we bend, but we didn't break? And he even said it after this game with the way that Jack Elliott and Brandon Vasquez went 1v1, Jacob Glesnes and Brunner went 1v1. He said, yeah, we bended in this game, but we did not break. And yeah, that's true. And Cincinnati could have been up early in this game. And we got to see Andre Blake called into action early on in the game. And that was, maybe it shouldn't have been a surprise to us, and maybe it was, where, yeah, Andre Blake bailed us out big time in this game with 5 huge saves. You go ahead and you look, after the Union survived those first 5 minutes, the Union start seeing more of the ball. You have Kai Wagner trying to hit long balls over the top, who, the Union win with a great chance with Carranza beating Mizaga to the ball, where Carranza hits a first time shot at Celentano, but it gets saved. Not a difficult save for Celentano to make. You go ahead and look. I mean, the Union, I would say around the 6th to 13th minute mark, the Union started to see more of the ball, where they outshot Cincinnati 3-0. We had a free header, the biggest chance in the first half. And up until that Liam Flach goal in the second half for the Union, this was by far the greatest chance in the game, where Daniel Gazla gets a free header. It's a great cross in by Bizo, and the shot goes off target. To see Daniel Gazla that open, where, last week for Cincinnati, New York City were sending in a lot of crosses, and Cincinnati did a good job to knock those balls down and clear the ball out. And, well, I thought the Union would not go that route, and we see early on in this game a cross in, Gazdag, free header. And maybe that caught Cincinnati by surprise. Jim Curtin did say after the game that they expected Jeff Cameron to start the game instead of Ian Murphy. They knew that Jeff Cameron maybe had picked up a little bit of a knock against New York Red Bulls, but they still thought that he was going to be able to play. And maybe that's why the Union came into this game trying to go at Cincinnati early on with crosses, having their guys go 1v1 in the air. And you guys heard me talk about it last episode with Tom Gallagher, where Matt Mizaga and Nick Hagelin were excellent. And the Union, I guess, didn't get the memo. They said, we're going to go straight at these guys, and they get a free header, and it doesn't go in. And you also got to see, too, just the first 15 minutes of this game, 6 fouls. 4 against the Union, 2 against Cincinnati. And Jim Curtin said he doesn't want to talk about the referee, didn't want to take any questions on the referee, and so nobody asked him about that. But, yeah, I mean, it was a terrible performance from Tim Ford for his first MLS game. If you guys remember, he called the first game between these two teams at Subaru Park, and he called, I believe, 22 fouls in that game, where you look against these two teams, he called 23 fouls. I mean, it was ridiculous how many times he was stopping the flow of play. And, yeah, we did see a lot of sloppy soccer because there was just constant stoppages. And how can you have a team playing their way when the referee is calling every single contact a foul, when you know that, okay, you got to time your tackles a little bit better, and you got to time your challenges a little bit better. And I think maybe some of those reasoning went into how the players went into this game, where they say early and often the referees are going to blow his whistle. And we did wind up seeing a total of 6 yellow cards in this game, 4 for the Union, 2 for Cincinnati. And the good thing is, right, if the Union had played in the first round of playoffs, if they didn't get that bye, this MLS Cup Eastern Conference final against New York City, you could have potentially have had Liam Flach, Jose Martinez miss games if they would have picked up or yellow cards. But because this was the first game that the Union played and everything, yeah, those guys picking up a yellow card is not that big of a deal, because we all know in the conference final, after that game, all the cards reset minus a red card, so hopefully nobody gets a red card in that game. But, yeah, I just thought that Tim Ford killed the momentum of this game. He killed the flow of play in this game. And Jim Curtin was asked about, how can you coach your team up for MLS atmosphere? And this is what Jim Curtin had to say.
No coach can replicate the playoffs. No coach can replicate it. So you can, talk about it. You can try to prepare them with words. You can try to prepare them in a training session. But until you feel it, and you feel the crowd and the intensity and how every mistake gets magnified, you can't prepare them for it. And I thought that we really managed. There was probably like a 6-minute spell where they came at us, and then we took about 6 minutes of just ugly deflections for throw-ins for us, time wasting in a fair but smart way where we kind of put some passes together, made them chase, and then there was about the last minute 30 that was all hell broke loose, and they could have created a chance. So the one thing I'll say about this group, guys, is look, there's tons of talented teams. There's so many good talented teams in our league. The individual quality in our league is at a whole new level. But I believe that this is a team, and that's what I said to them before they went out. We're a true team in that every guy's got to be good for us to have a chance. And we really, really have each other's back because we have to. If we don't, we lose, So I think that's a powerful thing that we have going for us. I'm not saying other teams are this or that, but I'll just say there's maybe some individuals that can win a game. You look tonight, and Chicharito will probably score a goal, or Vela will probably be the difference, But we know that we all have to be on, and that is a powerful thing. And these guys believe in themselves. And 2 more games.
Yeah, and we also say that all the time on the podcast. How many times does Jim Curtin say it? Where, this is a team. Where he just said it right there. Where you look at other teams in MLS, where they have superstars, LAFC. LA Galaxy, where maybe they don't all play as a team. They try to feed the ball into those individual players, and everybody just stands there and watches and hopes that this player can beat a player on the dribble, beat 2 players on the dribble, have a golazo go in the back of the net. And the Union, they have players that are capable of beating other players 1v1 or taking world-class shots and scoring them for goals like we've seen Julian Kranza do a couple times this season. But they don't rely on just getting that one player the ball and then everybody just sitting there and watching what they do with the ball. And like Jim said, the first 6 minutes of this game, first 5 minutes of this game, it was all Cincinnati, and the Union are very fortunate not to have conceded. Even though they only saw one shot, I think that's the key right there, where the Union were letting Cincinnati have more of the ball, letting Cincinnati be in their own half. But the Union were taking away spaces on the field where Cincinnati weren't able to get a good shot off, where they didn't feel comfortable taking a shot. And so they would just continue to work the ball. And the Union, just throughout this whole game, that was their whole game plan. Okay, we know we don't want the ball. We know Cincinnati doesn't like the ball, but we really need to have Cincinnati have this ball. And, I mean, one thing that stands out to me in the first half is we all know that Luciano Acosta is one of their best players, if not their best player. And the Union were fantastic just taking him away from the goal, where 7 out of his 19 passes were either side-to-side or backward passes, and they weren't letting Luciano Acosta go towards the goal. He was dropping deep to get on the ball. The Union were not giving him any space, where he loves getting on the left side of the field, doing these 1-2s with Barrial, with Brenner, and the Union took that away, and a big part of that was because of Jose Martinez, and Jose Martinez was fantastic on the night, and I'll save the Jose Martinez talk here for a little bit because, spoiler alert, he was one of my stars on the night. But I thought when you look at this game in the first half, Cincinnati would 100% take that going into the half, tied 0-0. That's a huge win for them. And for the Union, I don't want to say they were frustrated, but that's what Cincinnati were probably hoping, that they would be frustrated, that they won up by a goal, 2 goals, because that's what it's been throughout the whole season. The Union go into the half at home up 2-3 goals, and that did not happen in the playoffs. And I think part of it too was the Union weren't expecting to be up by multiple goals. They clearly learned their lesson from the last time that they played Cincinnati, where we all know they got blown out 3-1, where they couldn't get their front 3 going, which, granted, they really couldn't get their front 3 going in this game, but they found other ways to beat Cincinnati. Other players step up. Leon Flach steps up, scores a goal. And what a way to score your first goal of the season, your first MLS playoff goal. And Cincinnati, I can guarantee you, did not have it marked down, hey, look, don't let Leon Flach get on the ball. I can guarantee you that they probably said, we want Leon Flach on the ball, because if Leon Flach's on the ball, then that's a win for us. He's not going to hurt us. And And they wanted to take away Daniel Gazdag. Like we took away the areas where Luciano Acosta thrives in. They did the exact same thing with us for Daniel Gazdag, forcing him away from goal. Okay, if he gets 1-2s with the strikers, then let's make sure that it's away from the 18-yard box, because if he's near that 18-yard box, he's going to hurt us. And so in Cincinnati, we're forcing him to take his touches out on the left side, almost to the touchline, or on the right touchline. They were forcing him to go backwards to collect the ball. And when Cincinnati did that, that was a huge win, taking a key player like Daniel Gazdag out of the game, where they trusted their back five, back three, whatever you want to call it, but they trusted their guys to defend in 1v1 situations, where Alvis Powell did a good job, I thought, defending against Kai Wagner. You had Barvial do a good job against Olivier Bizo. Just like we saw in Cincinnati, their players that they were trusting in 1v1 situations, they did a good job to take out all the Union's key players. And it took the Union going through the middle and having a player like Liam Flach step up and score a goal. But, yeah, I mean, at the end of the first half, we talked about Luciano Acosta just being limited from the damage that he could do. It was pretty even with the amount of ball possession that each team's had. The biggest chance, like I said, the Daniel Gazdag header. Nothing else really stands out for me from that half. The Union, misplayed a couple bad passes, but I think the whole first half was disrupted with the amount of times that fouls were called. And then you go ahead and you look at the second half with the Union just, again, starting a little bit slow, in my opinion, where just like in the first half, Cincinnati came at the Union, had more of the momentum, had more of the confidence maybe coming out of the half, where, the Union, okay, we're not up a goal, but Cincinnati, we're not down a goal. Just like they weren't down a goal in New York Red Bulls. Took a world-class goal from Lewis Morgan right out of the half to catch Cincinnati off guard. But look, the Union get a fantastic goal from Liam Flach, and Andre Blake came out with just save after save in this game against Cincinnati. And I think for the neutrals, this probably wouldn't have been a game that you guys would find very enjoyable. The game at times was very stagnant, and you're not always going to get teams that are going to lay down. And it was funny just listening to what people said before the game. They were like, oh yeah, they expect the Union to win this game comfortably, 3-0, 3-1, 2-0. And yeah, I didn't get that impression. I was telling everybody I thought this game would go into extra time, and it did not do that. But yeah, I mean, I just think that both teams did a really good job taking out each other's front three. And if somebody was going to step up for Cincinnati, it was going to be somebody different for them, because coming into this game, Brenner Vasquez and Luciano Acosta, they'd scored the last 14 goals for Cincinnati. And the only other goal that they got out of the 15 goals prior was an own goal. And so, yeah, I'd said you take out those three players, Cincinnati's going to struggle. And, the Union take care of business. I mean, not much to say overall. Again, just a very stagnant back and forth game. The referee really killed the flow of play, but the Union did what they had to do to get all 3 points. But let's go ahead and talk about my keys to the game. Where number one, I said the Union, they got to set the tempo, because, like I said, this was, in my opinion, going to be a chance for Cincinnati to have it be a back and forth game. And if it was going to be that, then the Union would have lost. And the Union, again, I'm repeating myself for the fifth time, did a good job taking out their front three. And because of that, I do think that the Union do deserve a pass, but Cincinnati, the first and the second half, like we talked about, they set the tempo in this game, and the Union for sure could have been taken out of this game if it wasn't for them taking away the space where Cincinnati wanted to get those shots off. Number two, I said you got to defend those headers because coming into the match, Brandon Vasquez had 6 out of Cincinnati's 8 headed goals on the season. We saw Brandon score a headed goal at Subaru Park between these two teams back in June. And the Union do a fantastic job. Jack Elliott does a fantastic job to take Brandon Vasquez out of this game in the air, where he had no shots on target with a header. He only won 1 out of 3 aerial duels, and so Brandon Vasquez couldn't knock down the ball to Brenner or Luciano Acosta running onto the ball. And yeah, that right there, that's a huge win for the Union. A big physical player like Brandon Vasquez. Yes, we do see Brandon Vasquez beat Jack Elliott with pace after Jack Elliott has a mistake and forces a huge save out of Andre Blake, but you didn't lose to Brandon Vasquez in the air. But if you do look at it overall, Cincinnati were the better team in the air compared to the Union. But in the areas where it mattered most for Cincinnati to get headers on goal, yeah, that didn't happen at all. Cincinnati won 19 out of 14 aerial duels compared to the Union. And that was the same thing last week against New York Red Bulls. Nobody expected Cincinnati to beat one of the best teams in the air and New York Red Bulls in the air. And that's exactly what they did. And then they come in this game against the Union, do the same thing. And then they outduel them too with tackles on the ground. But the Union, they don't break. And because they didn't allow Brandon Vasquez to hurt them in the air to hold the ball up inside the 18-yard box, that's a huge reason why I believe the Union won. And then I said, you got to be defensively sound in 1v1 defending. Because we saw it in Cincinnati, where Jacob Glesnes, Jack Elliott, they made multiple mistakes in that game. Jose Martinez didn't follow Luciano Acosta. People weren't tracking their runners. And that wasn't the case at all against Cincinnati. And Jim Curtin was asked about what does he believe was the biggest tactical reason? What was the biggest 1v1 battle on the night that changed the game for the Union?
Oh man, there was a million little duels, and I thought Elliott and Vasquez found themselves together quite a bit tonight. That was canceled each other out. Each had a chance or two. I thought Glesnes worked really hard too against Brenner. It's not easy to cover Brenner when he steps off the line and drops deep into midfield. When do you step with him? When do you release? I think the biggest one though probably is Jose and the job he does on Acosta, because Acosta has the freedom to drift all over the field. Jose has a knack for going into tackles, and sometimes it looks like it's all or nothing, but he always comes out with the ball. So really good game from him. Again, to single one matchup out, is tough, but that was probably the one that he makes them go. And if you can do your best to limit his chances, I think you have a chance to win. But it was overall, a team effort, a lot of fight, and they're a good team.
Yeah, and it wasn't going to just be Jose Martinez on the night going at Acosta. It was going to be Jack McGlynn that would have to peel off of their guy and go and follow Acosta. It would be Leon Flach that would have to go and help Jose Martinez out. But throughout the night, we saw a lot of great 1v1 battles between Jose Martinez and Luciano Acosta. And Jose Martinez was huge just protecting that back line for the Union. And I'm happy that the Union were able to learn from their mistakes in Cincinnati, that they were able to learn from their mistakes at home in June against Cincinnati, that they knew this time not to take what had happened in the past against Cincinnati for granted, that Cincinnati is a completely different team. They had a fantastic season. And I told you guys last episode, I really believed whoever would win this matchup between these two teams, they would win MLS Cup. And a big reason for that is because of the front three, what those front threes do to teams throughout MLS. And yes, both teams canceled each other's front threes out. And that's not to say that New York City's not going to cancel out the Union's front three. That's not to say that Cincinnati's front three wouldn't have been canceled out by New York City. But when you have two teams that have similar coaching styles, where you have both teams that pretty much know exactly what the other manager is going to do, where you don't really see too many teams in MLS play with 5 in the back, trust their outside backs and their center backs to defend against the 5 attackers in 1v1 situations. You always see the 2 holding midfielders, if teams play with them, helping out the center backs. And it was interesting on the night too. Just there's 2 center backs in the midfield, Warberto and Moreno on the night. They didn't get too far away from each other. The only time that they did get split is on the goal from the Union, where they forced them to get extremely wide. Where other than that, throughout the night, they were maybe 5 to 10 yards apart from each other, just following each other in a rotated line where, okay, if one's going to step a little bit, then the other one's going to step behind. If the other one does it, then it's going to be the opposite. And we saw both times this season, it was hard for the Union to break down the 2 holding midfielders of Cincinnati. And I wouldn't say they broke them down again on Thursday night, but I would say that there was one time that they forced their 2 center midfielders to get wider than what they were normally getting. And once that happened, there came the goal for the Union. So, yeah, I would say all 3 keys to the game, the Union passed. 3 stars on the night. Number 1, no surprise, Andre Blake, 5 saves. And friend of the show, Kyle Almany, he asked, was this the best game we've seen from Andre Blake ever in the playoffs? And, I mean, you try not to be biased, right? And there is a lot of recency bias. Where I look at the game last year against New York Red Bulls, Andre Blake only had 1 save in that match. Against Nashville before the penalties, he only had 2 saves in that match, where this game he had 5 saves, and 3 of those saves were world-class saves where, yeah, Cincinnati probably should have got 1 goal, at least 1 goal in this game. Where if it's any other goalkeeper in MLS, yeah, Cincinnati's definitely finding the back of the net. So I would say, yeah, that probably was Andre Blake's best performance we've seen ever from him in the playoffs. If you wanted to take it a step further, saying, oh, is that the best game we've ever seen from Andre Blake? I know that wasn't your question, but I mean, it's definitely got to be up there in the top 5, right? Especially the magnitude of the game. But I know some people out there are probably going to say last year's performance against Nashville, especially in the penalty shootout, where Andre didn't concede a single penalty. Some people were probably going to say, yeah, that was the bigger Andre Blake moment. And it's hard for me to disagree with those people. A lot of luck goes into guessing penalties, where when you're defending in 1v1 situations in open play, yeah, it's not much luck. It's about positioning. I know positioning is important in penalties. I know you get coaching in penalties as well. But when you're in those 1v1 situations, you're not having a lot of thoughts. You know, you're taking away those angles in real time where, yeah, penalties happening. You have time to think about, okay, where this person likes to shoot and everything. But in 1v1 situations, you're adjusting constantly which way that player is going to rotate. So I would probably agree with you, Kyle, that, yeah, the game against Cincinnati was probably his best playoff performance. Number 2 on the night for me would be Jack Elliott. He had 1 block, 7 headed clearances, 1 interception, 7 ball recoveries, 4 out of 6 aerial duels won. And Jack Elliott, like I said, I mean, they took out Brendan Vasquez. And if you take out Brendan Vasquez, odds are you're going to win this game. Because a big part of Cincinnati's success this season is knockdowns from Brendan Vasquez. Him beating defenders 1v1, like we saw last week against New York Red Bulls. He beat Aaron Long with pace. Yes, he's a big target for it, but he has pace to him. And Jack Elliott did a great job not getting pulled out of position by Brendan Vasquez. Yeah, there was one mess up where Andre Blake comes up with a huge save, but other than that, yeah, Jack Elliott played fantastic against Brendan Vasquez. You probably want to put 2B to Jacob Glesnes for the job that he did on Brenner, where Brenner was trying to pull Jacob Glesnes out of a position where they would hope that they could just slot the ball through to Brendan Vasquez running in behind. But that wasn't the case. Jacob Glesnes did such a better job compared to what happened in Cincinnati when he was getting pulled out of position where, all right, once Brenner got into a certain position, then Liam Flach would go and pick him up, or Jose Martinez would pick him up, and then Jack McGlynn would slot over towards the ball. And so I thought defensively, especially these two center backs, they played fantastic. So, Jacob Glesnes, Jack Elliott, 2A, 2B, potentially. And then number 3, like I told you guys, Jose Martinez, 2 headed clearances, 1 interception, 7 recoveries, 2 out of 3 ground duels, 1, and 2 out of 2 headers, 1. Because Cincinnati, we're going to send in lots of balls in the air to Brendan Vasquez. And I know you guys are probably getting tired of me saying this, but that was a big key for Cincinnati coming into this game where, yes, Pat Noonan knows that Jack Elliott and Jacob Glesnes are great in the air, but it worked for them before. Pat Noonan knows the areas where those two center backs are weak at. And so, of course, they were going to go ahead and target. We would see Alvis Powell be almost as a right winger because he would be all the way to the touchline. And then as soon as he would get on the ball, he'd cut into the midfield where Jose Martinez would pick him up, tackle the ball right off of his foot. And now Cincinnati is a little bit exposed out there on the right side of the field because Alvis Powell pushed up, cut inside, and he lost the ball. And a big part of that was the positioning, the awareness from Jose Martinez. And yeah, you probably want to give the whole team the star, but for me, those 3 players really stick out. And then on the goal, like I was talking about earlier, this comes from a similar position from where Ali scored, where the Union attacked the right side of the field, where you have Daniel Gazdag and Jack McGlynn going to go ahead and play a little bit of a 1-2 with each other. And what's interesting here, I told you guys that the 2 holding midfielders got extremely split apart, which didn't happen often in this game. And the time that it did happen, they concede. And so you have Julian Kranza making a run off of one center back. I believe it's Miazga. You have Mikael Uwar, who's isolated, running off of Nick Haglin's back. And then you have the ball finally go to Julian Kranza inside the penalty area from Daniel Gazdag to Julian Kranza. And Julian Kranza does well to hit this pass first time to Daniel Gazdag. And Daniel Gazdag, like we see all the time, he loves doing these 1-2s where he's going to make a dashing run into the box. And when the ball finally falls to Daniel Gazdag, there's a little bit of contact on Daniel Gazdag from Juno Moreno. He does well to hold him up, goes down. Potential penalty, possibly. Mikael Uwar, his awareness right here, as soon as Daniel Gazdag goes down and the ball becomes free, Mikael Uwar is first to react and steal the ball off Matt Miazga. And as soon as Mikael wins that ball back, nobody steps to Liam Flach. You have Liam Flach just extremely open in the box. And Mikael Uwar picks out a good pass to Liam Flach, and Liam hits his first time, and it's exactly what you need. Alvis Powell did not pick up Liam Flach at all in this situation where, like I was talking about in this whole podcast, for somebody to step up in this game, it's going to be somebody that one of these two teams do not expect. And Alvis Powell falls asleep. We complained last year about Bizo falling asleep a lot, but yeah, in a big moment right here, Alvis Powell falls asleep when Liam Flach doesn't react, and Liam Flach's aware that he knows that I need to hit this first time, because if I don't hit this first time, I have 2 players coming straight at me. And Liam Flach couldn't have hit that ball any better. The awareness from Mikael Uwar to find him wide open. Fantastic play here from the Union. The Union probably should have had a second goal in this game where Corey Burke steals the ball off of his defender from a great press and then has a great opportunity for himself and misses the chance to score the goal. But yeah, all it took was 1 goal, and that's good enough for the Union. You win in advance, and like Jim Curtin said, there's only 2 more. But fortunately, I guess for me, not many goals to break down this week. And let's go ahead and talk about blunder of the week. And so I thought about on Friday potentially giving blunder of the week to Cristiano Ronaldo from Manchester United for refusing to come on as a substitute against Tottenham Hotspur. He walks down the tunnel while the game's still going on, and then reports come out after the game that he actually left the stadium while the game was still going on. And so for that sucky attitude, I was going to give Ronaldo the blunder of the week. But watching this Montreal game against New York City today on Sunday, there was a couple blunder of the weeks, and maybe we should give this whole game blunder of the week, not just this moment that I'm going to talk about, which involves the goalkeeper for Montreal, James Pantimus, where New York City is going to score on this play. It has 5 defenders for Montreal, 4 attackers with New York City. And Montreal are just terrible at defending the situation. And so by the time the ball eventually falls to Santi Rodriguez out on the right side of the field, you have 2 players marking Eber, the striker for New York City. You have Maxi Morales coming into the box unmarked because you have that double team on Eber. You have Miller that's in a 1v1 situation against Santi Rodriguez. You have 2 defenders, really 3 defenders that were around a New York City player. And by the time that they do a 1-2 inside the box, James Pantimus, the goalkeeper for Montreal, just comes out of position, leaves his whole goal wide open, misses the ball completely. Montreal tried to clear this ball away, completely missed, and then Maxi Morales just hits the ball top bins. Early goal for New York City in this game, 1-0, but just terrible defending early on. Worst possible start for Montreal, which we know that Montreal was one of the worst teams defensively in the league. One of the worst goalkeeping performances that we saw was from Montreal this season, where they split both of the goalkeepers time because they didn't believe that they had a true number 1 on the roster. And that was really evident against New York City. Later in this match, we had Sean Johnson completely drop a ball, goes in for a Mihailovic header goal, 3-1, and that's all that Montreal were able to get. But just complete shocking defending from Montreal, where they have the numbers advantage against New York City. Nobody steps to the ball, and they just all fall asleep inside the 18-yard box, and Maxi Morales is unmarked and able to, like I said, hit it top bins. But that's pretty much it for this episode. And don't forget, guys, I'm super excited to be a part of Podcast Row at the 2023 United Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia from January 11th to January 15th. The convention is the ultimate event for soccer coaches, administrators, and fans of the beautiful game. Ignite your passion through captivating presentations, on-field demonstrations, exhibits, and networking events for any coaches, players, fans. Going to be a lot of opportunities here for you guys. Come on out to Philadelphia for the United Soccer Convention. Surely going to be a great time. You guys can go ahead and visit www.unitedsoccercoachesconvention.org to register. And let's just come on out, enjoy the beautiful game. And hopefully the Union are able to win MLS Cup, and we'll really have something to celebrate in Philadelphia this year, because we know the Phillies are playing excellent. Off to the World Series, I saw, and you guys are loving that. All you 5-for-5ers, Eagles doing fantastic. And wouldn't that be a great time to have all these coaches, all these people coming into Philadelphia for this soccer convention? There's buzz in the air because the Phillies, the Eagles are playing well. If the Union win MLS Cup, going to be a lot of celebrating in Philadelphia. But be sure to get your tickets. Tickets are selling out fast, and would love to see you guys there. And who knows who you guys will or will not run into, and more on that a little bit later. But If you guys aren't following the podcast, follow Free Kick Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, wherever you get your podcast. And yeah, like I said earlier, guess I'll surprise you guys whether or not we have a guest. I'll be sure this week, though. I will 100% be sure to give you guys a match preview for New York City and Philadelphia Union. It's a game that everybody wanted. And like I said earlier, hopefully everybody for both teams are completely healthy coming into this match, so that both teams can come in full strength, and hope that we get a great game. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.